So you basically have this choice. You can either participate as really everyone who's here has been doing in some way, because heck, it got you here, or you can just cover your ears and pretend it's not happening. As we've seen quite a few do, and we'll show a little bit of that too. As far as the game plan for success, or at least a game plan goes, there are a lot of steps to it, and I'm definitely not going to cover all of them today, and I've tried, and it's really, really hard. But what I also saw on the schedule is that you'll have some great sessions, like the end of the day, all about measurement and ROI, and so I kind of cut things like that fairly short here, and there are other parts that are really nicely covered throughout this session. So I tried not to provide too much overkill, and I'm really just focusing on this one area that is I think will be really good to start the day with. So ultimately, this slide, like if you need to pay attention to any slide and then go to the bathroom or something, like have you seen that app Run Pee on the iPhone, where you can then know when to go and take a bathroom break during movies? Yeah. So if you I mean, when I was seeing Avatar, I was really, really tempted to use that. I had one of those 60-ounce Coke Zeros with me. I still refuse to, but if there was a Run Pee version of this presentation, it would probably be the slide after this one. So just try and provide some kind of public service here. And I've never actually encouraged people to leave during my talks, but this is a little more of a community, so I feel we can be friendly here. This is the one slide that I wouldn't get up for just yet, because it's going to come up over and over again. And really, at the agency, just whenever I'm kind of on my own, I think, what should a social marketing strategy be? I often turn back to this, we wind up calling it the strategic lens, call it whatever you want, but these 4 questions here wind up doing a really good job at least at preventing any major screw-ups happening, and hopefully getting things on the right path. So one, does it meet marketing objectives? And so this can apply also to vendors that you might work with on this. I've seen a lot of things like PegShot and all these other new event-related technologies come up. You got to see. So does this meet your marketing objectives? Does it use the social media arsenal, really all those good things about your event, all these assets you have to work with, does it really use that to the fullest and apply what you already have in some way, or does it come up with some new ideas of things that you need to create? Today, those furry hats became part of the arsenal. It was something that, you knew you needed something, and so you didn't quite have it on it, but you knew that through talking to the community, you could come up with exactly that perfect hook to kick things off this morning. So does it use the and then you use the arsenal of the community itself, which was also one of those things they had to work with there. Does it follow social media best practices, the rules of the road? We'll be talking about those in a little bit of detail. And then what's the value exchange? And so so we see a lot of this, the difference between the kind of broadcast marketing that will go on, or even traditional PR in a lot of ways. It's just trying to get messages out very efficiently, but in social media especially. Of course this was the case before, but it kind of wasn't. But now especially, it's what's in it for the consumer, the customer, the end user. You really have to pay extra attention to that. So in answering these 4 questions, it's usually going to put things down the right path, because it's amazing how often those questions aren't really answered too well. So it's not rocket science, but it definitely winds up helping me personally, and it's something that I go back to a fair amount. So goals, again, I'm not going to spend as much time on this because I know this will be covered later, but there are a lot of possibilities. And you might be focused on more than one at a time. But is it driving event attendance? Is it sparking buzz, like when I was just covering this presentation and from earlier this week and posting it on my own blog? I could I was part of the event and also contributing to the buzz around it, but the event did a lot of things to help facilitate that. Does it foster engagement? So I was at that Gotham Media event, and I was sharing cat pictures and spreading that further, and just to really engage with the event at hand. And then sponsored ops. While this one wasn't sponsored in particular, the live stream for Social Media Week, that could have just been one of their sponsors up top there instead of one of their house ads of sorts. And so you can use social media to create some of those opportunities too. Measurement does come up, and so there are a lot of ways to do so. A few really quick ways in terms of how we're thinking about measurement is one is creating a weighted scorecard, and so this is kind of in the direction it's often. I wouldn't cite these numbers specifically as like the gospel for a weighted scorecard, but it's something that we'll often work on with marketers on to just try to see. So here's what an ad impression is. Okay, so what value are we going to assign when someone chooses to view a video, or comments on it, or shares it, or embedding it, which usually takes a lot of work, or actually creating one, which you're really going to get very few people to do, but has the potential to have a huge impact where others can take all those other actions with it. So figuring out the value of what all that's worth. Community monitoring, trying to see YouTube in particular, like the demographics. They're just a great place to find a lot of that kind of information on who the audience is. Facebook, you get a decent amount of information. Twitter, not as much. So sometimes you'll have more or less access to some of that information if you're in terms of how well you're reaching the target audience. Buzz monitoring. I'll give another example of tag clouds later, but a lot of that more anecdotal evidence, and then sentiment analysis, and seeing what people are saying and who's saying it. And then ultimately presenting this in some kind of funky dashboard there that's really, so this was a dashboard that we're using for word of mouth, for digital word of mouth marketing, and so really breaking it down by a number of the different categories that would matter to the brand. So there really are a ton of ways to measure social media. As a kind of public thought experiment, one of the Social Media Insider columns I wrote a few months back was on 100 ways to measure it. I decided just for this, I hadn't done this before, was take all of this, get rid of some of the things like EGs, and I actually got rid of the word social media, because that was really just putting everything else there to shame. But getting into what does this all look like, and there are so many different ways to do it, from very traditional ways like impressions to more social ways like buzz of course comes up a lot, to other ways like customer service and how well it helps your HR organization and things like that. So that there are a lot of different ways it can play out. Also, because of my love of custom bit.ly URLs, it's one of the few things I can actually remember, and so that's also easily available at bit.ly/100 ways to refer back to the whole list. So, so the objectives, even like if you're say using Twitter, I'll just share a couple of things that I did work on for two very different brands. And so you might say, okay, we need a Twitter strategy, or we've got to be on Twitter, as a good chunk of this room clearly is. So for one organization, we're working with H&R Block, and this was a couple of years ago to get them going with social media. Really, as they were kind of getting started in the social space 2 years back, and so we're proposing this Twitter thing to launch by the 2008 tax season, and so we couldn't really make any guarantees as far as how well this thing would work or how people would use it, but it became very clear that for customer service this was huge, and it was really a great way to even change people's minds about how they think about the brand and how they interact with the brand. And to this day, we're not running H&R Block's Twitter account currently. They're doing this themselves and doing a phenomenal job, because they get a lot of heat. When people are talking about things like taxes and personal finance, it gets very personal, and people are not averse to calling names.